Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Brahmana Uvacha. Chapter 11. Brahmana Uvacha. Brahmana Uvacha. Akovida Kovida Vadavadan. Akovidah Kovidavadavadan Vadasyato nati vidam varishtaha Nasurayo hi vyavaharamenam Tattvavamarshena sahamananti. The Brahmana Jada said, "My dear king, although you are not at all experienced, you are trying to speak like a very experienced man. Consequently, you cannot be considered an experienced person. An experienced person does not speak the way you are speaking about the relationship between a master and a servant and about material pains and pleasures. These are simply external activities. Any advanced, experienced man, considering the absolute truth, does not talk in this way." तथैव राजन्नुरुगार्हमेध वितानविद्योरुविजृम्भितेषु न वेदवादेषु हि तत्त्ववादः प्रायेण शुद्धोऽनुचकास्ति साधुः. My dear king, talks of the relationship between the master and the servant, the king and the subject, and so forth are simply talks about material activities. People interested in material activities which are expounded in the Vedas are intent on performing material sacrifices and placing faith in their material activities. For such people, spiritual advancement is definitely not manifest. न तस्य तत्त्वग्रहणाय साक्षात् वरीयसीरपि वचः समासन् स्वप्ने निरुक्त्या रुहमेधि सौख्यं न यस्य हेयानुमितं स्वयं स्यात्. A dream becomes automatically known to a person as false and immaterial, and similarly, one eventually realizes that material happiness in this life or the next, or this planet or the higher planet, is insignificant. When one realizes this, the Vedas, although an excellent source, are insufficient to bring about direct knowledge of the truth. Yavan mano rajasa purushasya satvena va tamasa vanuruddham cheto bhirakuti bhirattanoti nirankusham kushalam chetaram va. As long as the mind of the living entity is contaminated by the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, his mind is exactly like an independent, uncontrolled elephant. It simply expands its jurisdiction of pious and impious activities by using the senses. The result is that the living entity remains in the material world to enjoy and suffer pleasures and pains due to material activity. Savasanatma vishayoparakto gunapravaho vikruta shodashatma bibrat prutangnamabhi rupamedam antirbahishvam cha puraistanoti. Because the mind is absorbed in the desires for pious and impious activities, it is naturally subjected to the transformations of lust and anger. In this way, it becomes attracted to material sense enjoyment. In other words, the mind is conducted by the modes of goodness and passion and ignorance. There are 11 senses and 5 material elements, and out of these, 16 times the mind is the chief. Therefore, the mind brings about birth in different types of bodies among demigods, human beings, animals, and birds. When the mind is situated in a higher or lower position, it accepts a higher or lower material body. Dukkham sukam vyatiriktam cha tivram kalopapannam palamavyanakti alingya maya rachitantaratma swadehinam samsruti chakrakutaha. The materialistic mind, covering the living entity's soul, carries it to different species of life. This is called continued material existence. Due to the mind, the living entity suffers or enjoys material distress and happiness. Being thus illusioned, the mind further creates pious and impious activities and their karma, and thus the soul becomes conditioned. Tavanayam vyavahara sadhavidah sadavihi kshetrajñasakshyo bhavati stula sukshmaha tasman mano lingamado vadanti gunagunatvasya paravarasya. The mind makes the living entity within this material world wander through different species of life, and thus the living entity experiences mundane affairs in different forms as human being, demigod, fat person, skinny person, and so forth. Learned scholars say that bodily appearance, bondage, and liberation are caused by the mind. Gunanuraktam व्यसनाय जन्तोः क्षेमाय नैर्गुण्यमथो मनः स्यात् यथा प्रदीपो धृतवर्तिमश्नन् शिखासधूमा भजति ह्यन्धया स्वं पदं तथा गुणकर्मानुबद्धं वृत्तिर्मनः क्षयतेऽन्यत्र तत्त्वम्. When the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened, but when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering, and when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. Ekadasha sanmanaso hi vruttya आकूतयः पञ्चधियोऽभिमानः मात्राणि कर्माणि पुरं च तासां वदन्ति हैवादशवीरभूमिः. There are 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. There is also the false ego. In this way, there are 11 items for the man's functions. O hero, the objects of senses such as sound and touch, the organic activities such as evacuation, and the different types of bodies, society, friendship, and personality are considered by learned scholars the fields of activity for the functions of the mind. Gandha krutis sparsha rasakshavaamsi विसर्गरत्यर्थ्यभिजल्पशिल्पाः एकादशं स्वीकरणं ममेति शय्यामहं द्वादशमेक आहुः. Sound, touch, form, taste, and smell are the objects of 5 knowledge acquiring senses. Speech, touch, movement, evacuation, and sexual intercourse are objects of the working senses. Besides this, there is another conception by which one thinks, this is my body, this is my society, this is my family, and this is my nation, and so forth. This 11th function, that of the mind, is called the false ego. According to some philosophers, this is the 12th function, and its field of activity is the body. Dravyasvabhavashaya karmakalair raka ekadashami manaso vikaraha सहस्रशः कोटिशश्च क्षेत्रज्ञतो न मिथो न स्वतः स्युः. The physical elements, nature, the original cause, culture, destiny, and the time element are all material causes. Agitated by these material causes, the 11 functions transform into hundreds of functions, and then into thousands, and then into millions. But all these transformations do not take place automatically by mutual combination. Rather, they are under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kshetrajñayeta manaso vibhutir जीवस्य मायारचितस्य नित्याः आविर्हिताः क्वापि तिरोहिताश्च शुद्धो विचष्टे ह्यविशुद्धकर्तुः. The individual soul, bereft of Krishna consciousness, has many ideas and activities created in the mind by external energy. They have been existing from time immemorial. Sometimes they are manifest in wakening state and in the dream state, but during deep sleep, unconsciousness, or trance, they disappear. A person who is liberated in this life, Jivan Mukta, can see all these things vividly. Kshetrajña Atma Purushah Puranaha Sakshat Swayam Jyotirajah Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevah Swamayayatmanyavadhiyamanaha Yata Nilastavara Jangamanam Atmaswarupena Nivishta Ishet Yevam Paro Bhagavan Vasudevah Kshetrajña Atmedha Manupravishtaha. There are two kinds of Kshetrajña, the living entity as explained above, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is explained as follows. He is the all-pervading cause of creation. He is full in himself and is not dependent on others. He is perceived by hearing the direct perception. He is the self-effulgent and does not experience birth, death, old age, or disease. He is the controller of all the demigods, beginning with Lord Brahma. He is Narayana, and he is the shelter of living entities after the annihilation of this material world. He is full of opulences, and he is the resting place of everything material. He is therefore known as Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by his own potency, he is present within the hearts of all living entities, just as air or vital force is within the bodies of all beings, moving and non-moving. In this way, he controls the body. In his partial feature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters the bodies and controls them. Nayavadetam tanu brunnarendra vidhuya mayam vayunodayena vimukta sango jita shat sapatno vedatma tattvam भ्रमतीह तावत्. My dear King Rahugana, as long as the conditioned soul accepts the material body and is not freed from the contamination of material enjoyment, and as long as he does not conquer his six enemies and comes to the platform of self realization by awakening his spiritual knowledge, he has to wander among different places and different species of life in this material world. न यावदेतन्मन आत्मलिङ्गं संसारतापावपनं जनस्य यच्चोकमोहामयरागलोभ वैरानुबन्धं ममतां विदत्ते. The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of the material body and wander within this universe in different positions, because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity. It creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. भ्रातृव्यमेनं तददब्रवीर्यम् उपेक्षयाद्येधितमप्रमत्तः गुरोर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो जाहिव्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम्. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of a living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it's very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Thus ends the chapter entitled Jada Bharata instructs King Rahugana. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.